We got Kamala Harris, y'all. We need to get to know her a little bit more. You feel me? I know a lot of y'all just gonna vote for her because she's a black woman. You know, that's why y'all, or you don't want Trump to win. You know, if nothing else matters. But I feel like it is important that we get to know who Kamala Harris is. So I found a video that has 7 moments that shine a light on who we are getting for president. I say let's just go ahead and get right on into it, though. Let's get it.
"38-year-old Kamala Harris was swept into office as San Francisco's district attorney, and as she did, she made history.
For too long, we've asked these very simplistic questions about criminal justice policy that offer only two choices. You know, either you're soft on crime or you're tough on crime. And instead, I suggest we should be smart on crime.
What was smart about the Smart on Crime campaign? You're telling the progressives, like, I'm not just going to throw everybody in jail. You're telling people who want, you know, more of a tough on crime approach that, like, I still believe in this. She was prosecutor coming out of the tough on crime 90s.
At a time when American drug policy was incredibly punitive. The idea was that tough on crime isn't working. What we need is the numbers rather than the emotions that are driving a lot of our policing.
Let's build metrics into our measure of how effective we have been with our criminal justice system.
The metrics by which she judges her success. As prosecutor, it's the numbers, the cases that you won.
I did an analysis of who our homicide victims were who were under the age of 25 when they were killed. And I learned that 94% of them were high school dropouts. Perhaps untraditional for me to ask the question, but I did.
She was raised primarily by a single immigrant mother who was a scientist. It's kind of like, what can you prove, not what do you feel?
Nobody is looking to their DA for soaring speeches about the future of democracy.
But I also think that women, in order to be taken seriously, particularly in politics, you do have to show that you have a command of the facts, the figures, the numbers, that you're not emotional.
And so that aspect of national politics has not come very easily to her.
Kamala Harris.
All right, y'all. So what is being smart on crime? What do we know about Kamala in her crime time? You know, she talks about being smart on crime. One thing that she did do is all those video cams y'all see that the officers have to wear, she did enact that into office. But for her, being smart on crime is somewhere in the middle, y'all. She doesn't believe in defunding the police all the way. I don't believe in defunding the police all the way. We still need somebody to patrol our neighborhoods. However, if you was to ask me what smart on crime is, it's educating the police. They need more education. That's what that is. It being smart on crime to me wouldn't be, you know, which they say she did, lock a whole bunch of people up for minor charges because they had a little, you know, marijuana on them. That to me isn't being smart on crime. You know, so it has to be somewhere in the middle. For me, to get behind her being smart on crime, because I know people haven't even heard her say this. This is what she was saying more in her younger days, as y'all seen on here in 2003. She was talking about it in 2010 and all those things. That's when she really was on the smart on crime, while she was in her attorney days. You feel me? So being smart on crime is literally somewhere in the middle. So if you talking about defund the police, that's not being smart on crime. That's not being smart on crime. If you want them to just lock up any old person, they tried that. We know that doesn't work. We know what that does, especially to poor communities that are in poverty. It pretty much destroys them, taking fathers out the home, doing a whole bunch of stuff to keep that community in poverty. If I was to say smart on crime, educate the police. And you know that would be my biggest thing, not defunding them. But let's go ahead and continue with point number 2, moment number 2.
That's a candidate for California's Attorney General.
Your opponent, Ron Gold, has said that he is for the legalization of marijuana recreationally. Your thoughts on that?
That he is entitled to his opinion.
It was very difficult to pin her down about what she thought about things.
Kamala Harris's stance on teacher tenure is not entirely clear.
She would try to say, you know, I'm a prosecutor. I have to remain neutral about these things. I really shouldn't take a position.
I have many clients in that matter, so I cannot talk with you about what we're doing in terms of the case.
Very seldom is she like first on an issue, right? She kind of like checks out the temperature first, sees how others around her are kind of reacting, and then she jumps in.
I want to be very well informed about exactly where it's going, what the potential of my opinion would be before I just express something off the cuff.
She also enters public life at a time when you really didn't see any women of color in prominent positions in elected life.
It was a different time in a largely white political system. She had those ambitions from, I think, a very young age to make it in politics, to be highly successful, to make, you know, lives better for people. But I think she also knew that as a woman of color in positions that had always been held by white people, she wasn't always going to be the one who was out on the front edge. She's not a trailblazer in a policy sense.
California.
All right, so number 2 is she's not a trailblazer when it comes to policies. Yeah, as you've seen, I can just hit on the marijuana part. She was kind of in the middle with that. Now, California, marijuana's recreational use. You know, you can use that all you want to. Another thing I know that just recently popped up with her was the whole no taxing tips. You know, Trump started that. She seen people was rolling with it. Now she rocking with it. I don't think, you know. Okay, let me rephrase that. Her not having any like political views as running for president, like what policies is she gonna run? To me, that's a problem. That is a problem. I would like to hear Kamala actually take a stance on a lot of these things and get away from her attorney time, where, you know, she might have had a client on this side, a client on that side. Now it's like, you know, you're running for the president. You're running to be president. So I want to know what policies you're actually going to push. And that's the biggest thing with Kamala that I'm personally waiting on, is to know what policies is she going to stick to. The being on a little bit on this side, a little bit on that side, that's not going to work anymore. You know, her waiting to see how people feel about it and if they really going to rock with it. It's like you got 3 months to really let people know what you stand for, what you're going to stand for. You know, we can just say that she's going to stick to everything Biden does, but she's a totally different person than Biden. You know, she had, before she came into office, she had totally different views than Biden. Like, is she going to pursue universal health care? Like, she raised her hand for one of the debates that she was in, or anything like that. Like, what political stance does she take on a lot of these issues? That way, we can all be informed voters on who we're going to vote for when it comes to November 5th. Let's keep it rocking.
California's Attorney General Kamala Harris announced that she will indeed run for the U.S. Senate.
Our new U.S. Senator, Kamala Harris! Woo!
Can you think of any laws that give government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm happy to answer a more specific question. But
That the government has the power to make a decision about a man's body?
I thought you were asking about medical procedures
No,
that are unique to men.
I'll repeat the question. Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator.
Kamala Harris really thrives as a politician, and this makes sense in the context of her background when she is the one asking the questions.
They have not asked me to open an investigation, but
Perhaps they've suggested,
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
hinted,
I don't know.
inferred. You don't know. Okay. In your March 24th summary, you wrote that, quote, after reviewing the special counsel's final report.
But I will say that no one.
Sir, I'm asking a question.
What a lot of Americans saw was a senator who just seemed exciting, who seemed willing to hold these men accountable, not let them kind of worm their way out of the questions she was asking.
That was really important for Kamala Harris when she served in the Judiciary Committee. She knew how to turn conversations into really serious examinations and cross-examinations of the folks who were brought before the committee, almost like a perfect recipe there for her to introduce a version of herself to folks who might not know her outside of California.
I do want you to be honest. I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
I think the fact that those clips went viral shows that there's an appetite, right? She's positioning herself as America's advocate.
You had Joe.
All right, number 3, she's America's advocate. Will she be able to hold up, like, when she's faced with these moments? She's about to have to face some real tough world leaders coming up if she wins president pretty much right now. Putin, China, Israel, Iran, like they're all these places. It's wars going on right now. So she's going to have to be able to sit there and go toe to toe with these people. And if she's able to, get her thoughts off, or even just, I guess, question people, like the lioness that she giving right here, because she definitely stalking them and attacking them. She getting at them. Like, you can tell they're vividly flustered. She's vividly getting under their skin. Getting at them. So if she's able to be an advocate for America and really stick up for American values, stick up for Americans when it comes to NATO, when it comes to especially this wartime situation that feels like it's coming up, then I will be happy. At least I know that it seems like, at least from what I'm getting, she has the background to be able to do that. But now she's gonna have to show us. You feel me? She got some debates coming up, so we'll see in that how she handles her debate with Trump coming up. That should be a telltale sign, because y'all know Trump, how he do anyway. So her being able to get in the ring with Trump, that's a telltale sign of the people that she will be coming up against when it comes to the worldwide stage. So her being an advocate for America, that is definitely a plus. Let's keep it going.
Owners, just busting down her door after that, saying you need to run for president.
I stand before you today to announce my candidacy for president of the United States.
Her campaign announcement in Oakland, I think there were 20,000 people there. It was just sort of insane. Expectations have become so high for her after those moments.
Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record.
The 2020 primary happened in a political moment where the energy on the left and among progressives was very strong.
The 2020 campaign was when her background as a prosecutor was really a liability.
She tried to reposition herself as a progressive prosecutor because that was sort of the hot fad, and it never quite fit.
I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I would never have described Kamala Harris as a progressive. She called herself the top cop in San Francisco, and then later when she was elected attorney general, she used those language.
Her career sort of predated this idea of what a progressive prosecutor is.
She really had trouble packaging her background in law enforcement as palatable to the base. What you saw often was a candidate who just seemed to be trying to say what she thought would catch fire with the base at that point.
Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? All right.
A lot of Democratic voters didn't feel they were engaging with a candidate who maybe actually believed that. And people walked away not entirely sure what she believed.
She ran out of money and she struggled to break through.
Although I am no longer running for president, I will do everything in my power to defeat Donald Trump and fight for the future of our country.
Joe Biden is officially the Democratic Party nominee for president.
And I commit that I will, in fact, pick a woman to be vice president.
Post-summer 2020, we were in this George Floyd moment.
Biden was talking about passing the torch eventually to a new generation of leaders. And the idea that he would be picking a Black woman, somebody who was younger than he was, suggested that he would be picking essentially an heir to the Democratic Party.
I have no doubt that I picked the right person to join me as the next Vice President of the United States of America, and that's Senator Kamala Harris.
And the road ahead will not be easy, but America is ready. And so are Joe and I.
The first year and a half of her vice presidency, not great, to put it mildly.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't.
Yeah, y'all, that last point, hey, they just, to me, highlighted even more of how she doesn't really stick to her policies, how she kind of flip-floppy a little bit. That just kind of showed it even more. Like I said before, the marijuana point, we seen at the beginning of the video how she felt about marijuana. She said that's his opinion, let him do what he wants to do. Now you get the point forward, she's all gun-ho for legalizing marijuana. On top of that, like they said, progressive attorney, yeah, she was not no progressive attorney like that. You know, to me, a progressive attorney would be a little bit more on the defund part of the police, but she was definitely, she could say she was smart on crime, you know, but she leaned towards the tough on crime for sure. And we know that. Then they showed how she did in the presidential debate. We know nobody was rocking with Kamala during that time. Nobody thought that she would be president at all. And she really dropped out pretty early in that race because of that. Like they said, a lot of the things she was saying, just it didn't add up. It doesn't add up, because when you were attorney in your earlier stages, you said this, you did that, and this, and now it's like, okay, you done flipped it all because it's the cool thing to say. Is that really, you know, I understand changing your mind, but if you change your mind, give us a reason why. Don't just come out like I done flipped. Give me a reason why. I really want to know why. And then I can be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or okay, yeah, bull. It's my choice to make at that point. But you know, you got to come to, if I'm a vote for you, I just want a layer of truth somewhere in there. You know, give me a layer of truth at least, so I understand that what's going on. Don't try to shade it over. They also hit on, you know, then here comes Biden, and he's just like, you know, I'm gonna pick a woman, and then he picked Senator Kamala Harris. I'm not even gonna talk about how she chumped out Joe and then flipped his side, because it seems like these days, you know, when it comes to that primary, you know, you getting into it, they can go at each other, it don't matter. But in the end, it got to be some unity, and that happens in a lot of groups. So I'm just let that be. We're just gonna let that be. Let's continue on to point 5.
Been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
She was given the assignment of leading diplomatic efforts with Mexico and some Central American countries to address root causes of migration to the southern border.
This is a no-win issue, especially early in a vice presidency. You know, what Kamala Harris is going to solve El Salvador?
Do not come.
To the extent that there are even metrics to determine one's success in this role, they're probably not going to become clear for another decade at best.
She was definitely becoming a team player for the Biden administration, but she was also kind of turning her back on a lot of her previous platform as a child of immigrants, but also as someone who's been a huge champion of immigration policy and immigration reform.
And she is interviewed by Lester Holt.
One of the first major media interviews that she gave, really introducing herself to a lot of Americans for the first time. Very basic and anticipated questions, such as, have you yourself been to the border yet? She could not seem to give a straight answer.
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point,
in the aftermath of that, there were not a lot of major media appearances for her. That one interview became sort of the anchor that a lot of Americans had when it came to, you know, what do you know about this person?
The root cause of immigration was number 5. We all know that it was a failure when it came to the immigration thing. We know that. She's stuck in there. It's come to the light that she ain't never been to the border, and she was charged to protect our border. She might have told the El Salvador, or Hispanics in general, not to come. But once you got here, you got a free ticket. You got a free ticket right on in. I'm talking about they were trying to take Texas to court because they were trying not to let immigrants in. And hey, we see how this has pretty much impacted a lot of Black communities in the sanctuary cities, in Chicago, in New York. Black people up there are saying, we don't want them here because that's the places that they're sending them. It's going to affect the Black community. The school, that's where they're going to stay. Resources, that's definitely getting took because these people have to eat. Jobs, the low wage jobs that some Black people have, those are definitely getting took. Because let's be real, these immigrants work harder for less and longer. So what can you say? What can you say? That's what's going to happen. So her whole stance on the border, that was a fail, Kamala. We're gonna have to critique that part 1,000%. That's definitely something I want to know your policy that's going to be moving forward, because that one that's a little wild the way that this whole situation is getting handled. We need to go back to Obama. They called him El Deporter in chief. Get him up out of here. But let's continue.
The difference, obviously, between now and 2020 is the Dobbs decision.
The moment where the Kamala Harris that voters are seeing right now really started to come into being was in 2022 when the Dobbs decision leaked.
The woman's right to abortion has been overturned and will lead to nearly total bans on the procedure in about half the states.
The significance of that is profound in terms of what it means for the rights of individuals, and in particular for the right of an individual to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
Through my reporting, what I found was that she was virtually the only major official in Washington who understood the salience of that issue. Suddenly, she sees for herself a role in this administration, being the spokesperson for the Biden White House on the issue of abortion. It's something that is very sincere to her beliefs.
This is about people having the freedom to make the decision that is in their own best interest.
I think that was hugely essential for her growth as a politician and just trusting her own instincts.
In America, freedom is not to be given. It is ours by right.
Now we're seeing her in more comfortable settings, especially in the last year, college tours, small businesses, talking about economic opportunity and loan cancellation, climate, and it's those kinds of forums where she really does shine.
Yeah, this whole topic, in the forums that she shine on, I'm not going to really get into the reproductive rights and all that. That's not really my lane. I don't really too much enjoy that. But the student loans, y'all know how I feel about the student loans. Don't come talk to me about no student loans. I don't want to hear nothing about no forgiveness. None of that. I don't want none of that. It's already done with by now. So we're going to just continue on and move on with this point, because a lot of the points that she flourishes on, when she goes to talk to the colleges and all that stuff, they are behind me. I just don't want to talk about them. So we just going to continue rolling and get to our last moment with Kamala.
We are not going back.
Lord.
The speech that she gave in Wisconsin was really interesting, where she almost stumbles into a new rallying cry for the campaign. The folks who were in that high school auditorium latched on to that line and started chanting it back to her. And she realizes in the moment that she has stumbled upon a new phrase. It is specific enough to resonate with people. It's general enough to not necessarily have to define it too carefully. That kind of describes not just her campaign, not just this moment, but can describe a little bit of just how spoiled and rotten the vibes were in the country before Biden dropped out, because it's an opportunity for a lot of folks to be re-inspired and reawakened.
The word authenticity is often so fraught with racial and sexist undertones, but you look at the rallies, the talks that she's doing right now, this is a person who's having fun.
The most important thing I love you back.
That ease and confidence with which she is currently carrying herself is reflective of someone who knows that the story of her career basically is not a net negative for her.
I will proudly put my record against his any day of
the
week.
You've seen her kind of embrace her biography as a person, as a woman of color, and she's realized that her personal story is actually powerful and it helps her relate to people. It helps voters relate to her.
She's a complex woman who has complex ideas and is very cautious, steady, not going to rock the boat a whole lot, and down the middle, a consensus person.
I'll tell you, on the subject of my mother, and I keep saying this, but it's true, you know, she said, just since we were young, you know, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last.
Hey, y'all, when she stumbled into that "we not going back," I said, Lord, she done got us something here. Because I know she was going to run with it. I knew she was going to run with it. I said, oh, she got something right there. We not going back. Because that means a lot to a lot of people. You know, it means a lot to a lot of different identities, you know, a lot of different groups of how they feel if Trump was to be elected. They feel like all that stuff's going to get taken away from them. Do I personally think a lot of stuff's going to get taken? Nah, probably not. You know, especially depending on who makes the rules, guys. You know, so I'm not too worried about not going back, you know, too much. But yeah, she definitely has something with that. And I will also define the last point of, you know, she's sticking to the identity that she is a black woman, a black Indian woman. Let me, you know, I had to give the whole thing. She's sticking to her identity and she's riding with it. Because she's like, okay, I can be black and Indian and a woman. I'm going to ride with that. We ain't going back. And all them groups, you know, they think about it. Yeah, we ain't going back. So, hey, more applies to her. But yeah, y'all, those are 7 moments that define Kamala at this point. You know, it'll be much more for us to learn as the time goes on. But yeah, that's it for that. So make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment